Hi, and welcome to Young at Heart. Today I am here talking with Raquel Mullaney, and we are going to be discussing something that's come up a lot lately with phone calls that I get at the center, and that's about aging at home and being cared for at home rather than going to a nursing facility. So Raquel, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Tammy. Happy to be here.
Raquel is the owner of Comfort Keepers, which have locations in Plymouth, Cape Cod,
and Braintree.
And I'd like to start by just asking you to tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. Me and my husband, Robert, got into this industry over 12 years ago. And believe it or not, it had a lot to do with 9/11. When 9/11 happened, my husband was working at a major printing company in Canton, and he was responsible for all your junk mail, the DirecTV coupons, your CVS coupons, even your Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes that you got. But when 9/11 happened, the anthrax scares happened, and nobody would open up mail that was not directly addressed to them by somebody they knew. So all the junk mail industry fell apart, and he was the head of those two companies, so you always start by cutting off the head first. And he said, Raquel, I am 50 years old and I'm too old to just go out and get a job. I need to have my own business. He did an industry analysis and said, what's the next industry to explode in the next 10 years? And it kept coming back, home care, health care, home care. Now, he also had personal experience with his dad passing away with cancer, and he had a very hard time finding help to take care of his dad in his home. So that, with his business experience being the general manager for a printing company and his personal experience with providing care for his dad, he put those two together and we came up with Comfort Keepers.
That's incredible. I find it so interesting that it seems as we get a little older in like the 40s and 50s, it seems a lot of people that I've talked to have switched careers like that. They've gone from something in corporate to something more in healthcare, or where they can help other people and it's more rewarding.
And I really couldn't have done this without him, because I don't have any business background whatsoever. He is a brilliant businessman. My degree is in psychology. And so I use my degree every day when I deal with the families and helping them talk through the difficult times they're having at home or coming up with their care plans. So it's a wonderful corporate marriage. Not only am I married to my husband and we do this every day together, but with his business experience and with my psychology degree, it really works. It really works well.
That's awesome. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about Comfort Keepers, the makeup of the corporation, or how you work?
Sure. I'm very happy to boast that we are the #1 home care in the entire country, according to Entrepreneur Magazine of this year. And we are a franchise. We're just like Dunkin' Donuts or Taco Bell. So we are independently owned and operated, and Bob and I own 3 franchises. We're one of the largest in New England, and we have won Comfort Keeper of the Year nationally 2 years in a row. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's fantastic.
There's over 600 of us nationwide.
Congratulations on those recognitions, for sure.
Thank you.
And from what I understand, you're a private pay company.
Yes,
Can
we
we
are.
talk a bit about the difference between private pay in relation to Medicare or taking insurance, that kind of thing?
We get that question a lot. We get a phone call and say, you know, I want Medicare or Medicaid to pay for that. Well, unfortunately, right now they don't. But with Obamacare coming down the pike, I do believe that somewhere in the next 5 years that will happen. However, right now, certified home care is your VNAs. Those are your Gentivas or Cape Cod VNA. They are paid for by a third-party insurance company, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, or Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's all free. So I strongly encourage you, please get the free care first. However, that free care only lasts as long as that physical injury is present. So whether you have a wound or you had surgery, it usually lasts about 1 or 2 weeks, and then that free care goes away. Well, sometimes Mrs. Smith isn't ready to be home alone after that free care goes away, and that's when the private duty comes in and supplements and supports when they're getting back on their feet. So that's a little bit of the difference between private pay versus the certified agencies. However, my particular Comfort Keepers is very fortunate to work with long-term care insurance companies, so it's not just cash. There's a lot of different ways that you can pay for private duty other than just writing a check. So we do have a contract with Old Colony Elder Services as a preferred provider. We also have respite grants that we provide to the Alzheimer's Association. We have the VA program that you're aware of. We bill long-term care insurance companies directly, and that is very unusual. Most companies say you have to pay me first. I can't wait for the insurance money. But my husband will process all of your insurance claims, and we will wait the 90 days it takes to get paid from the long-term care company.
That's fantastic. So when it comes to deciding whether you're going to go private pay or, like you say, take the freebies first.
Right, always.
Where would that fall? I'm trying to word the question right.
Sure.
With, you know, if somebody's nervous about what their parents might have, if they have a home, if they have an IRA, if they have a
Sure.
pension, where would that, does that come into play at all when you're choosing which way to go with home care?
It really doesn't, because your certified care you're entitled to. So regardless of how many assets and 401k plans and IRAs and homes that you have, your certified care you are entitled to. So if you go into a hospital, you come out and you have a medical need, then that care is automatically given to you.
Okay.
And 99.9% of the time, everybody comes out with a VNA service.
Right, and that's great to know, because I think that does cause confusion in a lot of the people that I've spoken to.
Right.
I've particularly gotten a lot of calls this month about when do you know if your parent's home alone, when they start not eating when they're supposed to, or you know, getting dressed or other things, or even minimal things like maybe they're just forgetting to open the mail or where they put their checkbook. When is it time to really start to look at having someone come in and help you?
Well, Tammy, you hit the nail right on the head. A lot of those examples you gave are the perfect time to start thinking about private duty care. But usually you're going to notice mom is a little bit disheveled if she's normally well coiffed with the nails and the makeup and the clothes, and you come to visit her and she hasn't bothered to comb her hair, or she hasn't bothered to have breakfast or lunch. She's losing weight. You've noticed that she stopped driving altogether. She doesn't go to church anymore. She doesn't want to be part of her book club. She's isolating. All of those are great clues to say, I should probably look into some help.
And could we talk a bit about how that process would work?
Sure. We are a pretty easy process. We're just one phone call, that's all you need, and you'll talk to our intake coordinator. And the first thing that she's going to say to you is, tell me what's going on with your mom. Because there are no two clients that are alike. There are no two care plans that are alike. So somebody may be as simple as just companionship and they want to go to the store. I just thought of a woman that is here in Plymouth, and she had us, she wanted to go to Macy's. And that was it. That's all she wanted to do, but she doesn't drive. So we had a caregiver go once a week to take her to Macy's.
That's fantastic.
But
so it could be something that small. It doesn't have to be helping get dressed. Or
We had one client that all we did was take him to Isaac's. On the waterfront in Plymouth to take him to lunch every single Thursday. That was what he wanted.
Now, and I'm thinking of things too
Sure.
as we're talking, but if somebody were to call and say, you know, I'm not really sure my mom's open to this, but she keeps falling and she's refusing services, are you able to have an initial interview with that person, or can they try it on type of thing?
Absolutely. I love that question, because I have never gotten a call from an elderly person that says, I need help. Very few elderly people say, I need help, and I don't want to offend anybody out there. So, however, it is the children that are the primary callers, and there's two things I want the children to know is, number one, you're not signing your life away. Yes, you can try us. Try one day a week for 2 weeks. See how that goes. Try every other week. See how that goes. You can cancel at any time. And I come out personally, and I will do an in-home assessment, and that is free of charge, completely complimentary. And one of the neat things about that is I am an Alzheimer's specialist, so if there is dementia-related issues that come up in play, that I'd be able to at least coach you through that process. And all of our caregivers, all 200 of them, they are trained by me in Alzheimer's care and dementia care, so that's super important to me.
It truly is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's-related illnesses that I think lately they seem to more sneak up on people. And then if you're the child of the parent who's going through it, it's almost like you don't know who to turn to or who to call.
That is so true. And one of the things I try to instill on people, if you have any dementia-related disease, it doesn't even need to be Alzheimer's. It could be Lewy bodies, Pick's disease. It doesn't matter. call the Alzheimer's Association in Watertown. They have free geriatric care management. They have all kinds of services that they can connect you to. It's one phone call, and they will let you know that there are the Comfort Keepers out there in the world. There are the Gentivas out there in the world. There are reverse mortgages. They will let you know of all of the resources that are out there for you. You don't have to go and look. They already know where we are.
That's fantastic. I wanted to point out this brochure because I love it. Your 20 questions to ask before hiring a home care agency.
I love it too.
And some of them, I circled a couple as I was doing my homework. But some of the questions that I didn't even, it didn't cross my mind because I'm familiar with when an employee gets hired, a job position, but some was about the background checks of the people that you're sending out and the way that you could keep track of these people.
You know, any reputable company is going to do a background check. But our national franchise says that is not good enough to be a Comfort Keeper. We have to not only do the Massachusetts background check, but we have to do a national background check. So if you commit a crime in Florida and you come up here to find a job in home care to take advantage of an elderly person, I'm going to know that you committed that crime in Florida. Not every home care company has to do that, but that is mandated by the franchise. And not only do we have to do a criminal background check, I have to check your driving record, and I have to check your credit report. Why do you think I would check your credit report and your driving record?
I can guess on the driving record,
yes.
But in case they're transporting anyone.
We do. We transport all the time to Boston, to medical appointments, or to the Council on Aging, to do activities at the council, or just to go have lunch, as I mentioned before. We do a tremendous amount of transportation. So I cannot hire a Susie caregiver that has a tremendous amount of moving violations or OUIs or DUIs. It's super important that we know what their driving record is.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the credit report is in case they would have sticky fingers in the person's home.
Very good, Tammy. So, you know, Susie caregiver that is in financial duress may do something out of character than if she wasn't in financial duress. So that is why we do their credit report. We want to see what kind of financial standing, because I can't put Susie caregiver in a home with Mrs. Smith who isn't going to miss the diamond ring on the dresser.
Right.
So it's a very comprehensive background check. It's not just run that $35 Massachusetts check and you're done. It's over $150 per person to run those background checks.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love the cross-state
Very
checks
important.
like that. That's so important. I just wanted to jump back for 1 second where you were talking about the transportation and where you could have somebody drive someone to, say, the Council on Aging for an event. I think that's a huge point because people think, oh, I have home care, I can never leave the house again, kind of thing. Or when you're looking at it for your parents, you're like, oh, I don't want them to fail, or you know, I want to make sure that they can still do things. So that's a great service to offer as well.
And it's very, I'm sure have seen that some new people that come to the Council on Aging, a little intimidated about getting involved in activities. So the caregiver will do the activity with them, whether it's a Zumba class or it's painting or pottery or bingo. The caregiver can stay with them right there and be by their side until they start to feel like they're part of the group.
Which is also great. I know that we've had a couple people that have been coming in that are just on the edge of being able to be there by themselves or need a caregiver to go with them, and some of their children work, so they're unable to go with them. So that's even...
We do a lot of that.
That's something I did not know. I'm going to note that.
Note to self.
And then as far as the differences, like one of the questions I had is if it's possible to know when the home care isn't enough and when they might need skilled nursing. But in looking at the brochure, I noticed that you do have a 24-hour hotline as well.
We do, and what's important to me is not only do we have a 24-hour hotline, but the person answering that phone is not a call center somewhere in Dayton, Ohio. That person is an employee of mine who knows every single client and every single caregiver. So they can handle the emergency, whatever that emergency is, and know what the caregiver is going through as well as what the client's going through.
That's fantastic. The more I talk, I'm like, wow. I'm learning too with everyone else. And then the involvement of you or the company or whoever would do that to check on the homes when somebody's going to it. Do you just rely on, as you were saying, Susie caregivers' notes, or do they keep notes? What kind of notes do they keep? That's another one. And then do you go in and check with these people or keep in touch with the families?
Yes. Yes, and yes. So let's start with, do we check on them? I think that Comfort Keepers is pretty unique that we hire customer service specialists, and their sole job Their only job is to do surprise inspections.
Oh, wow.
So they are driving up and down the South Shore and Cape Cod, because those are the two territories I service, and they are randomly stopping at our clients' homes that we know that the caregiver is there. And is the caregiver in uniform? Does the caregiver have their badge on? Is the client well fed? Are they clean? Are we doing the duties that we promised the client and the family that we were doing? So that is their only job. And if I have a client that's 24/7 and the overnight shift, you could get a knock on the door at 3 in the morning saying, knock, 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 this is the customer service specialist, let me in.
Right, are you awake?
Are you awake?
Yeah.
Are you all bedhead and just like startled that we were there? We really, really go that extra mile because they are alone in a home with a client, and I need to make sure that I am doing everything I can to keep the client safe and the caregiver honest. So.
And that made me think of another one as far as, where was that question? Are you insured or are your workers insured?
They
How
are.
does that-
Every single caregiver is bonded for up to $25,000, and then Bob and I carry over $3 million worth of liability insurance. In addition to, we also have unowned automobile insurance. So the caregiver is transporting the client in either the client's car or the caregiver's car. God forbid there's ever an accident, their insurance kicks in first, but we have unowned automobile insurance that covers above and beyond what their insurance doesn't cover. So we are heavily, heavily insured.
That's wonderful. I wanted to jump for a second over
Sure.
to the, when you're looking to select the right kind of care, or, you know, does a child have to know when they call up it's dementia, or, you know,
No.
maybe their mom's failing because of an infection of some sort or medication. So you have that support on the other end of the phone that would walk them through, you know, maybe she does just need someone to come over and help her cook, or maybe she needs a ride, or
And that's the whole point of the complimentary in-home visit, because it's really tough to make those decisions over the phone. But if I can meet the client and talk to the family and really get a real good picture of what's going on, it makes it a lot easier for me to make recommendations of what would be an effective care plan than trying to do that over the phone. And there's no obligation. You don't have to sign anything and you don't have to pay for anything, but it's very difficult to give those types of recommendations over the phone. Yeah.
So what kind of information do you recommend a person has when they start to look for home care for a parent or spouse or
That's a
child
wonderful
even?
question. That is a really wonderful question. When I started in the industry 12 years ago, there was only one other home care company on the South Shore. Now today, I just emailed the Massachusetts Home Care Alliance and I said, could you please send me a list of all the home care companies in Massachusetts? And he sent me an Excel spreadsheet over 60 pages long. And there's a reason for that, and this is one of the things I want to educate our viewers today, is that not all home care companies are created equal. So because I belong to a franchise, I have very strict rules and regulations that I have to follow. However, the state of Massachusetts has zero state agency oversight. So anybody can pay $300 to the state of Massachusetts and call themselves a home care company. So I really, really want people to be educated about that, because technically I could take a homeless person off the street, give them a syringe full of morphine and say, go inject that client, and I would not be breaking a single law. I want you to be afraid of that.
Yeah.
You really, really need to know who you're inviting into your home.
And that was something I was going to ask. I recently had a conversation with someone who lives in another state, and she said she was a personal care attendant, a caregiver now. And I asked her where she went for training, and she stated that she didn't have to go for any training at all. And not that I would think she would do anything in particular, but I taken aback. I thought that the state of Massachusetts, you know, and a lot of other industries have a lot of oversight.
You would
so it's
think
interesting to hear that we don't, because I was going to ask you that.
Massachusetts is so heavily regulated, it's just shocking. My husband and I, we have gone before Congress, we have lobbied Senator Murray, we have did letter writing campaigns. We want regulation, we want it large, we want it expensive, because everybody should be on the same playing field and have to follow the same rules. I just get very nervous when I see these single shingle wonders out there that are working out of their garage or, you know, out of the trunk of their car calling themselves a home care agency. They are a reflection of all of us. So if something bad happens to their agency, it's going to blow back on all of us. So I really wish if there's if Vinnie DiMassino or any of those state reps and congressmen are out there, please, you need to regulate private duty home care.
That's so, it's amazing. I'm actually in a little shock right now. So when you go and work, if I was to go and be a nurse's assistant in a nursing home, I have to get certified.
Yep, heavily
in
regulated.
home care, nothing.
Certified home care, the VNAs, they are heavily regulated. Private duty agencies, there is no regulation whatsoever. You pay your $300 and you hang your shingle, and that is it.
Wow. Wow.
So I am very fortunate to be regulated by Comfort Keepers. They come in every quarter and they dig through my records and they want to know, what am I charging the client? What am I paying my caregivers? When's the last time I updated that care plan? When's the last time I did an inspection of the client? So I am regulated by the franchisor. But if you're not dealing with a franchise, then there are no rules.
Wow. Okay.
And there are some wonderful other franchises
I'm sure.
out there.
It's just interesting.
Correct.
I'm sure people out there had no idea that.
They don't.
As I really didn't. I'll be totally honest.
And
that
a lot
it
of
wasn't regulated.
like you just said, a lot of folks in the healthcare industry, they don't have any idea. They just automatically assume that we're regulated, and we're not.
Yep. Fascinating. Yeah. That might be a new mission.
It's been my mission for 12 years, I can tell you that.
So something else that you had touched on earlier when you talked about respite. Now, I'm assuming that is for if I was taking care of my mother and I needed a break, I could have somebody come in and sit with her, take her out, or if I just needed to go away for the weekend, have somebody come in. So it would be more of a service or a help to me, not necessarily to her, but that's still something that people can take advantage of.
Oftentimes how we have to, I don't want to say spin it, but that's often how we have to spin it to the elder, saying, we're here for your daughter, we're really not here for you. It's for her peace of mind when she's in Hawaii. She wants to enjoy that vacation and make sure that you're very well cared for. So do this for her.
So it could be for a short term or for a long term.
Very short term. You know,
excellent.
yeah.
That's great to know. And here I go jumping around again.
That's quite all right. I'm okay with the jumping around.
As far as these questions here on your brochure, the 20 questions, did you have any that you wanted that we haven't touched upon that you wanted to express?
You asked me a question that I didn't specifically answer, and one of the pieces that we're pretty proud of is our electronic time clock. And the electronic time clock, we don't rely on paper timesheets and caregivers telling us when they arrived and when they departed. When they get to a client's home, they have to literally go over to the client and say, good morning, Mrs. Smith, I'll be right with you, I have to punch in. And they go to the client's home phone and they dial an 800 number and they punch in their 4-digit code. That clocks them in, and our schedulers back at our corporate headquarters can see live to the second when that caregiver arrived. When it's time for them to leave, they repeat the process. Goodbye, Mrs. Smith, I'll see you tomorrow. They go over to the phone, same 800 number, punch in their 4-digit code, it clocks them out. So no longer do I have to rely on Susie caregiver telling me I was there from 9 to 5, when it was really 9:30 to maybe 4:15.
Right.
So that piece is so important to me because some of my children, today I have a client's son that lives in Australia. He can literally go on anytime, day or night. He gets to log in to see, well, who came today? Was it Susie that came today? Was it Lisa that came today? Maybe it was Rachel that came today. Who came today? How long did they stay? What did they do with my mom while they were there? He can log on and see all of that at his leisure.
Oh, that's incredible. And that must be a great comfort to the people that live so far away.
It really is. We've had Australia, Japan, and obviously all over the United States. And it's very popular on the Cape because many of the elders stayed on the Cape and the children left. So they utilize that feature of our electronic time system quite a bit.
Something that popped into my head as you were saying, you know, maybe they got there at 9:15 and left at 4:15 instead of 9 to 5. There's probably people that will also stay longer than they're supposed to as well. So that probably helps keep them on task, which is something that I have been looking at, and that's boundaries in healthcare and where those boundaries have to be and how strong they have to be. Do you provide training to your staff for things like that?
It's so interesting you brought that up. I just had orientation yesterday, and that's another thing I want to accentuate, that I do all of the hiring and the interviewing and the orientating and the training personally. So I hand select the caregiver that's going to be in your home. I did training and orientation yesterday, and one of the caregivers said, well, could we go to a birthday party of the clients? And I said, no. And they got very upset and said, why can't I go to that birthday party? I said, there are very professional boundaries. Yes, you're a wonderful, loving caregiver, but you have to remember this is still a job. I know you love your client with everything you have, but you cannot cross that professional boundaries. If your client is having a birthday, tell me. We'll throw them a birthday party where all of Comfort Keepers can go.
Right.
So she felt a little bit better about that when I said I would throw. I've done lobster rolls for clients turning 100, and whatever
that's fantastic.
whenever they turn 100, they get whatever they want. And this particular client, all she wanted was lobster rolls from Woods.
That's great. It's great that she
Yeah.
got her lobster
She
rolls
got
and
her
that you do
lobster
the
rolls.
training, because it's so important. I know sometimes there's those little blurred lines and you're just not sure if you should take the
Right.
step over, and it's great that they can come to you and ask you about
I'm
it.
very, very melodramatic about those lines. They cannot be blurred ever. And I love that. I had orientation yesterday on the Cape, and one of the girls drove all the way up from the Cape today. She hasn't even gotten her first shift yet, but she came into my office and said, I had so much fun at orientation, and I'm so proud to be wearing this Comfort Keeper logo on my chest.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we are starting to run out of time, which happens.
Oh.
I think we're not going to have enough, we're not going to have enough content, but now I feel like, I should have her back. But is there anything else you wanted to share before we have to cut away?
I just want everyone to be very, very careful about the home care companies that they hire, and if nothing else, ask you for this brochure so you can use the 20 questions to hire a good home care company.
Yeah, we have a lot of these, and I will
Great.
be calling you for more.
Great.
I do want to thank you so much, Raquel, for coming
It's been a
and
pleasure.
talking today, and it's been great to meet you as well.
Thank you
And
for having me.
Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again next month for Young at Heart. Have a good day.